replacing the most popular driver, right? I gained a lot of fans during that time, which was really cool. I feel like I get more cheers now than I did.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cup Connection. I'm Mike Massaro. We have a fantastic guest here today. One of the most intriguing stories in the sport throughout the course of 2023. That's Josh Berry. You see him there. Before we start talking with Josh, though, I just want to remind you, please hit like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to hear all your input as well. So please send us a question if you have one for Josh. No, let's get right into it. Hey, Josh, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, what an amazing year. How would you describe it?
Man, it's been a whirlwind for sure. Starting the season, which would have been, my second full-time year in the Xfinity Series. Obviously our goals and expectations there were to win races and compete for a championship and to get in the third race of the year, get thrown into a full-blown audition in a cup car for Chase Elliott has been it was quite the experience. So just it's been a wild year for sure.
So much to unpack there. You used the word audition. That brings me right to my question. Did you feel like that was what it was?
Well, it was in a way. Actually, I had conversations with Stewart-Haas Racing before the beginning of the season, and it was just, sometimes in racing and motorsports, it's so timing is so important about how things fall your way to be able to get opportunities. And I've been a great example of that for years, but not only this year with that. I was amidst of some conversations with Stewart-Haas about the 4-car, and right in the midst of that, Chase gets injured, and they choose me to drive the car, and I get that 5-race stint there in the 9, which I don't know that I personally called it I don't know if we felt like it was really an audition, but it was. I didn't really try not to think of it that way, but I know that everyone at Stewart-Haas was paying very close attention to how I did. Luckily it went well, and I'll be a full-time Cup driver next year.
Well, that's a lot to have on your mind as you're taking over for the most popular driver in the sport, by the way. I mean, that's pressure in itself, I would think, right? So the audition went obviously very well. What was it like for you when you started to hear big names in the sport starting to talk about you, starting to say, well, Josh Berry is clearly a full-time Cup driver. He's proving that. What was that like when you were hearing that type of thing?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience, I think, right? Like, in each race was a little bit different, but as we started to have a little bit of success through that opportunity, it was really cool to have a lot of my peers reach out to me and voice their support of me and who I am and how I got here and all that. And that was really, it was really, really cool to be a part of. And that whole group, it's like you said, replacing the most popular driver, right? I gained a lot of fans during that time, which was really cool. I feel like I get more cheers now than I did. I feel like that was such a great experience for me. But man, that group and Hendrick Motorsports is just a top-notch organization. And throughout all of this, right, not only driving the car, I gained some great experience working with some really, really talented and very smart people. And I think that was a great opportunity for me to grow on the track as a driver in the midst of preparing to go to the Cup Series, but also grow off the track and participate in their meetings and different things that we did throughout that process to prepare. It gave me a great view into how a team like that operates, and obviously going to Stewart-Haas and the Ford team is a team that's operated on that level, but being able to experience it inside and out, and now soon to be both organizations, I think it'll be a really positive experience for me.
So, Josh, this is an interactive show. We take questions from our viewers, and we did get a Facebook question from Gary G, who has a question I think a lot of people want answered, and I'm sure it's a question you were asked maybe when you were interviewing for the job. And the question was, why are you the right guy to replace Kevin Harvick?
Well, I think For one, I think that, the four car and the culture that's created around the four car was very intentional, right? And that was created by Kevin and Rodney and that whole group. And they felt like, as a organization and as that team, they were looking for a specific type of driver for that ride. I think, so it's hard to speak to that, but I think that, I fit the mold that Kevin and Rodney have built there, and with my character and my path to get here, I think is something that means a lot to those guys. And it was really important that they wanted the right guy to get behind, and I think that regardless, you take the experience at Junior Motorsports and then Hendrick Motorsports and now soon to be Stewart-Haas, right? Like, they had their choice at probably anybody for that ride, and they wanted me for just the person that I am, the race car driver that I am, and that was really cool to obviously do.
Well, a lot of people were praising you for what you did in the quote unquote audition, the 8 races, not just with Chase Elliott, but also with Alex Bowman, or filling in for him, I should say. Big names supporting you. But the first one goes back years, way back. Dale Earnhardt Jr. So I want to get into this because this is truly a Cinderella story. How did you get his attention?
So this was probably, I'd say 2008, 2009. I was racing legend cars at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway in the quarter miles, racing with my family. It was just me and my dad. We raced kind of mostly at Nashville, a couple other tracks in Middle Tennessee. Financially, we were kind of, towards the end of what really we could afford, right? We couldn't, it was getting harder and harder to even race at that level, let alone try to move through the ranks. And, I took up kind of as a hobby was online racing, which now, back then it was the various different kinds of platforms, but ultimately became iRacing is what's most known and popular now, and kind of struck up and that's a hobby of Dale's as well, and kind of struck up a friendship with him on there. And, we would race together some, but we would talk, we talk here and there, and just kind of developed a friendship. And really, that's pretty normal. A lot of my best friends I've met racing online over the course of the years. It's just a unique environment when you race on there and do that. You see this. It's really not that weird, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But
no, it's becoming really common.
Yeah,
it really is.
And so we just we became friends and chatted, and he somewhere it's hard to remember all the exact details about it, but somewhere in there he asked what I did, who I was, what I wanted to do. Obviously he had raced with me online, and I showed him some. He reminds me of this. I kind of forgot it, but he reminded me of this throughout this year, especially, was that I had sent him some onboard videos and stuff of me racing, and he watched them, and for whatever reason liked me and decided to give me an opportunity to test a late model. And we went to Motor Mile Speedway in Virginia. That was probably,
well, you won the championship there in 2012, I think.
Yeah, so my first race was 2010, so it must have been somewhere maybe over the course of that off season. And we went and tested, and I went to North Carolina and finally officially met Dale and Kelly, and we went and tested at Motor Mile, and the test went well. They let me run a couple races. I raced twice right at the beginning of the season, their first 2 races, and those went pretty well. And ultimately moved to North Carolina and went to work at Junior Motorsports, and throughout the whole process raced the late model car too. So it's definitely a really unique story.
Unique's a great word for it, that's for sure. Did it ever cross your mind, while you were doing the online racing with Dale Earnhardt Jr., that maybe one day this relationship from the internet racing would lead you to the Cup Series?
No, definitely not. Man, I remember back on that time and who I was, and we were, like I said, I can't stress, when you're kind of, I don't know if I want to use the word. It's just racing is so expensive to do, even at the local level, and when we're financially tapped out at that point, And obviously, yeah, things can happen and you can meet the right people and the right partners and things can progress. But I didn't see a lot of light at the tunnel at that point when it come to my racing, right? So to get hooked up with Dale and just to run a late model race, I grew up at the Nashville Fairgrounds watching guys race on the 5/8 mile there, racing late models, super late models. And so my aspirations at that point was to just race a stock car, right? Like I thought it was just the coolest thing ever just to get to race a late model, like race a late model stock. So, over the course of the years, your goals kind of evolve as you grow. But ultimately, I think that for me, I at first just wanted to earn the opportunity, right? I wanted to get in there. I wanted to work and learn the late models, learn how to work on them, learn how to maintenance them and fix them when I tear them up, and obviously race at the same time. And Dale gave me a great opportunity through that because really he didn't put a lot of pressure on me as a driver necessarily. But what he did, he just pressured me as a person, and to have a good work ethic, to be present there at the shop, work on the cars, take care of the cars, treat them like your own, and grow. And because he knew I was inexperienced in that part, right? Just jumping into a stock car. So he just gave me a great opportunity there to kind of learn. And that in our late model program at JR Motorsports was, when I stepped into it, it wasn't what it is today. They would win, we would win a couple races a year. And over the next decade with that late model program, we took it from winning once a year, maybe, to winning 10, 15 times a year. And that was kind of the journey that ultimately got me into the Xfinity series.
My guess is that was part of the reason people took note of what you were doing. I mean, you helped elevate the performance of that team. I mean, I would think. So one thing I've gathered through various online messages I've seen, some articles and what have you, is that you've become an inspiration to some grassroots drivers. Have you found that to be the case? Have you heard from some people at some short tracks reaching out to you saying, "Hey, man, you've really inspired me. You've made me believe that I can keep going." Anything like that?
Yeah, I think that, that's been really cool experience for me, right? Because ultimately that's who I am, is that kind of grassroots, short track, local racer, because that's what I did for a long time. I keep my story to get to the Cup Series is, like I said, it's unique, right? It's not a normal path, right? I'm going to be a rookie at 33 years old. I spent a decade racing late model stocks, and I think in won, almost 100 late model stock features around the Carolinas. Very accomplished in that discipline. But it took me a while to put together the opportunities and everything that gets to the next level, which is unique. And I think that gave me a lot of my peers that I raced with and raced against. They don't even necessarily know me as Xfinity driver, right? Like they think of me as that guy that was late model racing and would drive the truck and trailer to the racetrack and work, drive the car in practice, get out, work on it. Was very hands-on and very involved in that program. And I think that's a great inspiration for all those guys that you just don't necessarily know what can happen. And it's the important part is you just have to just keep after it and keep working and keep doing. And you never know. Obviously I was very fortunate to have someone like Dale Jr. on my side, right? And even throughout that process, it's still so difficult to make it in a NASCAR's top 3 series, even with someone like Dale advocating for you, which he did a lot. So, by no means is it easy, but I think it gives some hope to those guys. And if anything, it just proves it to be, a great proving grounds for drivers and teams and the competition that's at that local level.
It seems like Stewart-Haas is building a roster of guys like yourself. Ryan Preece has a lot of similarities there. for sure. Hey, folks, I just want to talk to our audience real quick. Josh, I want to remind you folks, if you haven't hit like or subscribe to our YouTube channel yet, please do. And make sure you check out some of our previous episodes of Cup Connection. We've had some great guests. I just mentioned Ryan Preece. He was our guest last week. Had a ton of other guests as well throughout the course of the year and plan to have more as the season continues. Let's get back to Josh real quick. Hey, so as the season continues here, you still have the Xfinity schedule in front of you, but I'm wondering, are they going to put you in a cup car to kind of get you a little bit more reps before the end of the season?
No, I don't think so. Definitely my focus is at this point to try to close out this Xfinity series and do the best that we can. It's like I said, this year in itself has had its own challenges, right? I think that, us as a company at JR Motorsports, we're coming off an amazing 2022, right? We had, myself, we won 3 times, advanced to the championship 4, and had 3 of the 4 cars in the championship 4. I think we won almost half the races. So we're coming off like an amazing year, and just due to, I think, some rule changes and personnel changes and things that happen at JR Motorsports, we just really haven't got that mojo back going that we had last year. So for me personally, it's just really important to end this on a positive note and to get to victory lane. We've had some strong runs this year, but we lack the consistency that we want, and we're working really hard to try to get that. So for me, really our eyes are fully focused on trying to go to victory lane in the Xfinity series, and then prepare ourselves to make a run through the playoffs like we did last year. So, I'm excited about that. Last year was the playoff experience is so challenging, but to, advance through that and make it to Phoenix and not win the championship is, it's extremely motivational for all of us, right? And even our whole company going there having 3 cars and to win the championship and not getting it done, I know was tough on a lot of us. So we're working really hard to get back there and hopefully close the deal.
Certainly tons of motivation. Hey, Josh, thanks for being with us today. We wish you the best of luck in the Xfinity series throughout the course of the year, and certainly next year when you head to Stewart-Haas as a full-time Cup Series driver. Congratulations on that again.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, folks, thanks for joining us here on Cup Connection. We hope to see you again next week.